I feel it is only fair to warn you, I am not currently wearing pants. It is entirely too warm for pants. Alright then, it is Friday, it is fan mail, it is Q&A, let's do this thing. Streamline Nerf. Buckeyes or Wolverines? Yes, football. I have no idea what you're talking about. 8.no. Chaylo, any tips on taking care of your beard? Not really. There are special shampoos and conditioners for beards. There is also beard oil, which I really should look into, as mine's getting to the point where it's getting a little messed up. Combing it, of course, keeping it trimmed. Try to keep it from being entirely too scraggly. I tend to keep the sides trimmed on mine just for reasons of it's flippin' warm. It's definitely gotten longer than I usually keep it for no readily apparent reason. I just don't work in a hospital anymore, so I don't have to keep it short, so I don't. Lego and stuff. Captain Xavier, I have a question. What is your camera setup? Because my friends and I are starting a YouTube channel. I am actually doing it the cheap and easy way, and I'm just using my phone, which is a Galaxy S6. Right now I have it on a tripod, so it's pointing at me. Normally I have it suspended from the ceiling from a gooseneck clamp thing so that I can have a mic and a power cord plugged into it for long videos, because otherwise it'll die. Russian Doge. What is your favorite Linkin Park album and song? I have no idea. I've never actually followed albums. I couldn't name a single Linkin Park album, and I doubt I could name very many of their actual songs. I think Faint. Is Faint one of them? I think I liked Faint. Combat Cheese. That is a great name. Next question for Q&A. I want to do a Retaliator pump grip mod. What do you recommend to put in there? Also, is painting super difficult for a weathered look? There are any number of kits out there. It really depends on how much you want to spend. I mean, you could just buy an upgrade spring and call it a day, or you can go for a full artifact breach. I'm pretty sure there are those out there for the Retaliator. Don't quote me on that. I've never built a Retaliator. The one that I plan to build my gear up, it's actually not a Retaliator, it's a Recon. And I've got a metal kit around here somewhere that I'm going to be putting in there. But I've never actually bought or built a kit for a Recon. The only one, well, no, that's not true. I guess I've got an Orange Modworks kit in my Bullpup Retaliator. And it works great. It really depends on how much performance you want. I generally don't go for super high-end mods because I nerf with a lot of children, so I just want a little bit better. But yeah, there's any number of kits. Shop around, watch videos. I'm just not the expert on Retaliators. Also, as far as painting, no, it's actually not very difficult from what I understand. It's basically a matter of you put your base coat on and then whatever color you're using for your weathering, whether you're going for a rusty look or a metallic look or whatever, you brush a little bit of that on in the area you want weathered and wipe a lot of it back off again and lather, rinse, and repeat until you get as much as a weathered look as you want. You can also go for a more natural weathered look and do a base coat of what you want the weathering to be and then actually weather the paint job. Scuff it or sand it or whatever, the top coat so that the lower coat shows. I go for a natural weathered look, but I like it to weather to whatever the Nerf gun's natural color was because I don't like to pretend that my Nerf guns aren't Nerf guns. Blasters. Call them blasters. John Jackson. Sir Captain Xavier. What is your favorite Marvel and DC villain? Marvel, probably Venom. I always liked Venom, and I like because he talks in the third person plural. We are Venom. I always thought that was neat. DC villain? None come to mind, honestly. No, I got nothing. Mason Billing. Which is better, Star Wars or Star Trek? Once again, when you're asking me to compare two things, you need to give me some sort of an objective measure. Because they're very, very different things. I mean, some people would actually, a friend of mine actually argues that Star Trek isn't science fiction. It's actually more high fantasy because the technology is being made up as they go. If you're looking for pure entertainment value, I would consider Star Wars to be better. If you're going for a more well-rounded show, Star Trek is pretty much better. And that's kind of the difference between movies versus TV shows. Because you get to know the characters a whole lot more in depth in a TV show that runs for 7 seasons than you do characters that you see in 3 movies. And of course, the Clone Wars and some of the other TV series that have come up around Star Wars has kind of alleviated that a little bit. But Star Trek has always been a lot more about social messages. There's usually a moral in each episode, whether the futility of war, or racism, or homophobia, or sexism, or the morality of slavery, or the morality of artificial intelligence. These are all things that come up in Star Trek all the time, and you don't generally see that kind of a message in Star Wars as much. Star Wars is more about things blowing up. If you want to compare the technologies, I actually wrote an essay on that in college, because I am a huge nerd. And I got to do a lot of research into the various technologies, and one of the reasons I don't think it's really a fair comparison is the Star Wars universe is about 20,000 years ahead of the Star Trek universe, despite the whole, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But the Star Wars universe was unified under a single government 20,000 years before the movies, give or take. And there were obviously lots of governments that came and fell, and there was lots of stuff. But Star Wars lore is almost as long and deep and complicated as actual Earth lore. In fact, it goes back further. There's longer records of Star Wars than there is of human existence on Earth. There's probably more information about the Clone Wars than are about World War I at this point, practically. There's huge amounts about it, and it's fantastic. But as a result, being that more advanced, they had a unified government that long before, the current era, which puts them 20,000 years ahead of Star Trek as far as technology goes. And so it's not surprising that hyperspace is so much faster than warp, or that turbo lasers are so much more powerful than phasers, or, things like the Death Star and the Borg exist. Star Trek has better teleportation technology, and their replicators are probably better than most of what you see in Star Wars. But as far as if they were to go head-to-head, it wouldn't really be much of a contest. The Empire versus the Federation would be somewhat laughable, as the Imperial fleet is thousands of times bigger than the Federation fleet, and they're dedicated warships as opposed to exploration vessels. So I don't think that they're actually fair comparisons. It'd be like saying who's the better fighter, a caveman or a Navy SEAL. It's not fair. And Star Trek isn't meant to be what Star Wars is, and Star Wars isn't meant to be what Star Trek is. So I enjoy both of them. I have seen almost every season of Star Trek, every show. I don't think I've seen all of Enterprise yet, but and I've definitely seen pretty much all of Star Wars. I haven't watched much of Rebels yet, but I watched pretty much everything else. Both of them have been part of my nerdery since as long back as pretty much as I can remember. So there are my thoughts on that. Hot Rod Ryan, have you ever met fans, and how many? Yes, and I have no idea. I've run into a number of just randomly people recognize me in Goodwill, usually by my voice. And I've had fans contact me and want to meet up, and I've had fans come to my shop and work on mods with me, and kids show up at our Nerf wars and recognize me, as well as Walcom and Out of Darts and the rest of us. But I haven't been keeping track. Beach Boy Nerd, what is your job? I work for a little computer company based out of Plano, Texas, that was started in some guy's garage. You may have heard of it. Dell? Dreamer Pixel Shepherd. Xavier, what is your opinion on the First Order Stormtrooper Blaster, and does it have modding potential? Well, since it's essentially a Rampage reshell, you can do anything to it that you can do to a Rampage. So any of the springs that go for it, I doubt any of the bolt sleds and bolts and any of that are going to fit, because they're not identical. But any spring you put in it should pretty much work. Clyde Martin, have you ever seen Galaxy Quest, and what do you think of it? I have, and I think it's magnificent. Pretty much anything with Alan Rickman gets a pass in my book. Mr. R3Z. Q&A. I thought of a mod for a rough cut, and I was thinking, why don't you just remove the gears and make the bar and make a bar from the pump grip to the plunger rods to amp up how much it can take. What are your thoughts on a mod like that? It would probably work. I don't know how the leverage would work since the bar is going to be at an angle, so you're going to be pushing partly up as well as back, and I don't know if it's going to work as well. I went the easier route and just made mine prime from the back, like a Night Finder, and it worked pretty well. It needs a little bit more tweaking, and my plan was to have it fire 4 and 4, but I never got around to that. Colton Franks, are you a fan of the Game of Thrones show or just the books? Both. I read up to the most recent book a couple of years ago, and I don't think I got past season 4 or so. They killed off all the characters that I actually enjoyed, and the ones that were left were kind of annoying, and I wasn't enjoying watching them as much. I need to get back into it because it looks like it's about to get really good, so I should probably catch up on the last 2 or 3 seasons. P.S. Do you think a Panther tank would fit in a Cougar shell and make a crazy sleeper breach and a faux clip? Probably. James Stawn. Waffles, pancakes, crepes, or pie? My general go-to breakfast is waffles. I like waffles and I have a nice waffle iron. Generally don't do a lot. I can't remember the last time I cooked pancakes, honestly, just because waffles are easier. I do love crepes. I had both dessert crepes and breakfast crepes while in France, and I've been telling myself that I need to get a good crepe recipe for the last 8 years or so, and I still don't have one. So if any of you have a good crepe recipe, go ahead and send it to me. And as for pie, I don't like fruit pies, but I do like chocolate pies, and I think technically cheesecake falls into the cream pie category, and cheesecake is my favorite. Hooked on games. Hey Cap, what is your opinion on speed loaders? I would love to get speed loaders for a rough cut for one of the ones that I have as a master key, because that would be pretty cool. I've seen them. I've never tried them. If you have ones that you would recommend, go ahead and let me know, because I'd love to give some a try. The Man Emperor of Mankind. Question. Have you ever been to the UK? If so, where, and did you like it? I have not been to the UK. I've been to Southern Ireland, France, and Italy. Technically, I drove through Monaco, but literally just drove through it, didn't even stop. And that's the extent of my European adventures, though some of them were crazy. They're probably still looking for that guy who broke into that hotel in France. It wasn't me, you can't prove a thing. Sergeant Serendipity, are you good at DDR? Is that Dance Dance Revolution? Is that still a thing? I don't know that I've ever actually played it. I would probably be terrible at it. Shadow Knight 55. What is your favorite hand tool, electric tool, and bench tool? Oof. My current favorite tool, I finally got myself a proper hanging Dremel with foot pedal. And I love it. I'm not sure which it qualifies for. It's actually suspended from the ceiling, so it's kind of bench tooly, but it's definitely electric. It's definitely not a hand tool. Probably the ones I use the most as far as hand tools are probably my files. I use them for all sorts of things. Electric tools, Dremel, and bench tool, good lord, I don't know that I could live without any of my bench tools at this point. Probably my drill press would probably be the one that I think is the most value, though the bandsaw is a real close second. AKA Gainsey, Legion of the Damned or Space Wolves? I have no idea. Have you ever considered doing a Space Marine blaster? I have. I've seen a number of Nerf bolters and storm bolters, and they are gorgeous, and I love them, and I would love to do one. I do still want to do Space Marine armor, but at this point it's really low on a very long list. Meister Sin. Capt, do you have a cool way to display your loadouts? Not my loadout specifically. I've got my wall that has all of my personal blasters, all my black and orange, the X-Strike line, if you will, and I've got an armor stand for my heavy gear, but my war loadout is now just in a trunk. I just keep all of my war gear in there and toss in a bunch of blasters before a war and run whatever happens to end up in there, just because it's easier. Bipedal Narwhal. If you were to fight with longsword in a non-German tradition, which tradition would you choose? Probably one of the Italian. My fencing style is French, more or less, but the Italian longsworders were also pretty good. I mean, their armor towards the end of that era was amazing. I mean, it would eventually stop longbows, which is pretty impressive. And the Milanese breastplates, once they, some of the really good ones were able to stop guns, so their sword techniques were fairly advanced, and I might go with one of those. The Fandom Connoisseur. I like that. Hello, Captain. Question for next week. Have you ever considered a ninja-style loadout? No, because I'm not sneaky. I'm big and I'm loud and I don't sneak well. I'm also not very fast on account of having 2 bad knees and a bad back. But I kind of like the idea of the throwing stars using the cross-cut blades. And I think I've got 2 of them now. I know somebody else who was planning to do that, and I like the idea because it can be taken off and be nothing but foam, and would probably fly. I doubt it would fly well at all, but I think it'd be hilarious. You mentioned, or you suggested some ideas of things on ropes and chains, and that's not a good idea because anything on a rope is really hard to control once you've let go of it. If you got it wrapped around somebody's neck, that could be a problem. Also, they hit a lot harder than you'd expect, which is, of course, the point. But it's hard to make them safe. Zargax24. Do you like the Alien series? Or are you not into that sci-fi? I do. I like the Alien series. I like the Predator series. I liked the Aliens versus Predator series. I particularly liked the comics. They had some cool crossovers, like Aliens versus Predator versus Terminator, which was an excellent series. Batman versus Aliens, Batman versus Predator, Superman versus Aliens. RoboCop versus Terminator was actually a really good series, in my opinion. I like the old Alien series. That's what was one of the scary movies I saw as a child. And I think I actually saw Aliens before I saw Alien. And so, of course, I always considered it to be better. Just like I saw Predator 2 before I ever saw Predator, and so I've always liked it more. I'm not currently a huge fan of the new Alien reboot. But to be fair, it's very clearly a serial. It'd be better served as like a mini-series rather than doing it as independent movies. I saw Prometheus thinking that it was the prequel to Alien. And when it didn't set itself up properly at the end to link up with the beginning of Alien, I was very annoyed. There was also a lot of bad cliches, run sideways from the spinning ship, that kind of thing, it's like, oh, come on, you can do better than that as far as writing. And then when I went and saw Alien Covenant, I once again was still under the impression, I always thought it was going to be a continuation of the series. I figured it was going to come after Alien Resurrection. And when it turned out it was a sequel to Prometheus, I once again thought, okay, well, I realized that Prometheus was... I thought, oh, well, that explains it. That's why Prometheus didn't line up. Surely the end of this one will line up. And then it didn't even come close to lining up. And then later, and I was very annoyed. I did not enjoy Alien Covenant at all. I mean, there were people laughing at what should have been the scary parts in the theater because they were just so predictable that it wasn't even... It was hard to take it seriously. But to be fair, that is because we've seen all of the Alien movies already. If you hadn't seen Alien or the old Alien series, then Alien Covenant would be scarier because you wouldn't know what was about to happen. But since we have seen it all, we knew that there was an alien in that egg and that he was going to get... and so it kind of destroyed the whole suspense that was supposed to be being built. But now that I've taken that into account and reassessed them, I think the next one is going to be amazing. And all of this will actually create a very rich backstory that we didn't have in the original Aliens series. We knew nothing about the aliens. We didn't know anything about the ship, and they never made any attempt to explain any of that anywhere in any of the prequels or any of the sequels of the original Alien series. But that now has been explained in this series. So whatever comes next is going to have a whole lot more backstory and impact, and it's going to be actually, I'm looking forward to it now. And then I'll be able to rewatch the new stuff, independent from the old stuff, and I think I will enjoy it a lot more. So there's my opinion on the Alien series for what it's worth. Sledge Striker. Skittles versus M&M's. Who will win? That's a tough one. That's another one of those, this versus that one, they're completely different things. One's chocolate, one's citrus candy, one's chewy, one's hard shell. I really couldn't pick. My favorite M&M are actually almond M&Ms, and Skittles are Skittles. My favorite Skittles are the yellow ones. I used to have yellow and the green together, but then they went to green apple, and I'm no longer... I've acclimated to it now, but I still don't like green apple as much, and so I wish it was still lime, because lime and the lemon went well together, but that's that. Many years ago, me and my mercenary crew of pirates booby-trapped our candies, kind of unintentionally. Back before we were a particularly powerful mercenary company, we were paid in things like food and candy because we liked doing pirate dicing games because we were pirates, and so we'd ask for a bunch of bags of candies that we could use as gambling tokens. Essentially, each pirate got one of the different kinds of candies, and if you wanted the candy that he had, you had to win in the gambling. By the end of it, of course, it's all just piled in a big heap in the middle, and nobody cares anymore. And so we had this tray. We were paid in M&Ms, peanut butter M&Ms, peanut M&Ms, and Skittles. And they were all just mixed together in a big heap in the middle, and somebody snuck up and thought they were going to be cheeky and sly and grab a bunch of candies from the pirates and throw them in their mouth before we could do anything and go, ha-ha, what are you going to do? And we just stared at them smiling, and they started getting real nervous. And you could see the moment, and it was magnificent. They're going, chocolate, yes, chocolate, chocolate and peanut butter, chocolate and peanuts, I like a lemon! Because it turns out a handful of Skittles in with your M&Ms just doesn't go well. And they called us bad names and, accused us of booby-trapping the candy, which we hadn't actually done intentionally, but it was hilarious. All right, then! On to the fan mail. All right, we've got a letter and two kind of packagey things. Let's take a look at the letter. Dear Captain Xavier, hi there, long-time viewer, subscriber, first-time letter writer. On your last Q&A, somebody asked if there was a Nerf group in Wisconsin, and there are a couple, and I'm with one of them. We are in Milwaukee. The group is MANO, Milwaukee Area Nerf Outings. Our group organizer got business cards a couple of months ago, so I thought I'd send you one in the hopes that you would give us a shout-out. Well, consider yourself shouted out too. Love your content. Thank you for sharing your humor, creativity, and geekiness with YouTube and the Nerf community. Sincerely, Bill B. Ethan Leet on YouTube. Well, Bill B., that is pretty cool. I wish our group had... I wonder if our group has. There's a couple of Nerf groups locally. We haven't actually created a Tacoma one yet. We really ought to, just so that we have our own. Most of our stuff we do through the Olympia Foam Society. Incidentally, if you want a shout out, this is the way to get it. Send me a letter, because I read letters on camera. Just asking for a shout out in the comments is cheap and I won't do it. So, there you have it. If you're in the Milwaukee area, there's the group to look up. They're on Facebook, Mano Nerf. Awesome. Now for the little letter. Packagey looking thing. Ooh, old sticky darts. Sweet. Hey there, Cap. I've been watching your videos for a month or two now. I love them. You inspire me to mod my first Strife. Keep up the good work. P.S. Stop taking all the Nerf guns from the Washington Goodwills. I will not, sir. You will have to just beat me to them. If you haven't, can you do a K-26 on the original Dart Tag Hyperfire? I have, and it can. I don't know how long it would last with a K-26 in it, but it did in fact fit, and it did in fact catch. So, that's the thing. Jared, are you in this area? You are. Well, in that case, one of these days, you should come visit me in my shop and get free stuff. Because that's how it works. Awesome. Thank you for the donuts. All right, package. Legos. Sweet, buttery goodness. That is, good Lord. That is some old school Lego there, sir. That is old Forestman, old Black Knight stuff. so young. All right, and 1 gold crown. Good, that is amazing. Those are in incredible condition. Usually this stuff is a lot more faded than this. All right, there appears to be a very cool... That is cool. E, ooh, e. Oh, there it is. Hello, Captain. Inside is Lego Kniggets and a custom Lego a Lego custom you. And I am 12 years old and watch all your videos. P.S. How you make this paper is burn it with a little and dip it in tea. Oh, that's how you got the weathered look. Shane. Very, very cool. We were discussing a trade for this. I need to finalize that and get that back to you because this is some amazing old school Lego here. This is going to go with my castle beautifully. Especially all those forestmen. I was going through it and most of my forestmen are pretty badly faded, but these are in mint condition. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you ever so much, Shane. The paper is cool. That is going in my collection. All right then. What's going on? There is an event called All's Fair going on this weekend. There's going to be foam fighting. There's going to be Nerf wars. There's going to be some HVZ. The HVZ is taking place at 10 o'clock at night, so I don't know if I'll be able to get any good video. I'm going to try. I make no promises, though. I'm also definitely going to have a LEGO updates video. I've been doing all sorts of stuff. Going to finally show the village. And some neat stuff. I had a fan give a suggestion that I thought at the time was ridiculous and then realized that it was in fact genius, and I have implemented it, and it came out magnificently. So you will get to see that next. So yeah, if you want to send me stuff, by the way, yes, if you have Legos that you don't want anymore, do feel free to ship them to me. Or if you want to talk about a trade that is also possible, but keep in mind that my time is limited, so custom stuff, probably not. But feel free to contact me. Contact information is in the description. Also, if you spot an error I've made, like some bit of Star Trek lore I got wrong or some Star Wars lore, read the description before commenting because odds are someone else has pointed it out and getting the same correction 25 times gets a little old. So I usually put an update in the description going, yep, I was wrong, this person said I was right, thank you for that. So keep that in mind. But any comments, suggestions, ideas, stuff you want to put in the comments, go right ahead. And as always, thank you for watching, and thanks for the cool stuff.